It all began with a simple text. "Working late? Don't wait up." Emily had sent similar messages before, but this one felt different. We'd been married for 6 years, yet lately, something had shifted between us. Our conversations had become shorter, our laughter rare, and the warmth of her goodnight kisses had faded into routine silence. I kept telling myself she was just overwhelmed at work, but deep down I knew better. That kind of distance doesn't come from exhaustion. It comes from a heart drifting elsewhere. That evening, the unease in my chest wouldn't fade. I grabbed my jacket, keys in hand, and drove toward her office, hoping I was just being paranoid. But when I arrived, her car wasn't there. I parked in the same lot where she always left it and stared at the empty space. My pulse quickened. Maybe she went out with coworkers, I thought. Still, something urged me to keep searching. I drove to a downtown bar she used to visit before we married, the one with dim lighting, soft jazz, and overpriced cocktails. As I walked through the door, the sound of the saxophone blurred behind the pounding in my ears. And then I saw her, my wife, sitting at the bar in a short black dress, her eyes glowing with a light I hadn't seen in months. She was laughing, leaning closer to a man I'd never met, her hand brushing his arm like it belonged there. It was the kind of smile she once saved for me. The way she tilted her head, the ease in her body, it all spoke a truth I didn't want to face. For a moment I stood frozen, praying there was some innocent explanation. But when he whispered something in her ear and she giggled, my hope died quietly. The bartender glanced at me, recognizing the heartbreak written across my face. I didn't yell. I didn't cause a scene. Instead, I walked slowly toward them, every step heavy but deliberate. When Emily finally noticed me, the color drained from her face. "Mark," she stammered, her voice shaking. The man beside her turned, confused at first, until his eyes landed on her wedding ring. "You must be—" he started, but I raised a hand to stop him. "Don't," I said, my voice calm but empty. Then I looked at Emily. "So this is where all those late nights went." She opened her mouth, searching for an excuse that wouldn't come. The room seemed to tighten around us. Conversations hushed, curious eyes turned our way. I slipped off my wedding ring, the simple gold band that once symbolized forever, and placed it beside her glass. It made a soft clink, a sound that somehow felt louder than any shout could. "You can keep it," I murmured. "It belongs here more than it ever did on my hand." Her eyes filled with tears. "Mark, please. It's not what it looks like," she whispered, reaching for me. I stepped back. "Don't! Save your stories for someone who still believes them." The man muttered an apology, but his voice barely reached me. I turned and walked out, feeling the weight of every stare burning into my back. Outside, the cold air hit me hard, sharp as truth. I stood beside my car, staring at my reflection in the window. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just breathed, slow, painful breaths, as if learning how to live again. My marriage hadn't ended in a fight. It ended with the quiet sound of a ring touching glass. That night, I packed a bag and drove to my brother's place. He didn't ask questions, just gave me a place to sleep. For the first time in years, I didn't wait for a message from her. I just slept. The next morning, a lawyer friend called. "Mark, whenever you're ready, I'll take care of the paperwork." "Thanks," I managed to say. Though my voice barely worked, it's strange how love feels weightless when it begins, and impossibly heavy when you finally let it go. A week later, Emily showed up at my apartment, eyes swollen, makeup streaked, voice trembling. "It was a mistake," she said. "He meant nothing. I just needed to feel something." I let her speak. She cried, begged for therapy, forgiveness, another chance. When she was done, I said quietly, "You should have thought of that before finding comfort in someone else's arms." She sobbed harder. "Can you ever forgive me?" "I already have," I replied after a long pause. "But forgiveness doesn't mean returning to what's broken." Months passed. The divorce papers were signed and life moved on. I buried myself in work, went back to the gym, and started rebuilding the man I was before I spent years trying to be enough for someone who'd stopped trying. Sometimes I'd drive past that same bar. The lights still glowed, people still laughed, but I never stepped inside again. It wasn't bitterness that kept me away. It was peace. They say heartbreak changes you. It does, but it also teaches you serenity, the kind that comes when you stop searching for reasons and start choosing self-respect. That night, when I left my wedding ring beside her drink, I didn't just end a marriage. I reclaimed my dignity, and sometimes walking away in silence speaks louder than any words ever could.